My name is Vicky Lee, and I've just been interviewed by Keith Andrew of the KeithAndrewNetWork, which is an amazing platform, and Keith asks some really fun questions. So what a great way to be a part of a bigger vision and also make a new friend.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching the Keith Andrew Network. That is right, the one and only Keith Andrew Network. Today, it's episode 623. That's right, 623. I'm here with the talented and beautiful Vicky Lee. I just want to say thank you for being a guest on my talk show.
Hi, Keith. It's an honor. Thank you for having me.
No, the honor's all mine. For people who want to know what my talk show is about, whole point of my talk show is to show people that even with having a learning disability, I can still amount to something. And at the same time, I'm able to turn myself into an example for people out there dealing with any types of learning disabilities and disabilities to never give up and prove people wrong. Prove to them that labels do not dictate who you are and who you're going to be. And just to prove to them is to amount to something. So hashtag break the labels. So that being said, half hour, 32 minutes every time. You can say anything you want, talk about anything you want. It is PG-13, but I'm giving you the format to say and do whatever you like. So you can get up, show us your plays, whatever you want to do. And the first thing I do want to talk to you about, start off with the easy ones, is did you do any sports growing up? And were you a study nerd or party animal?
So growing up, I did some swimming. No organized like team sports, but I did some swimming. And then let's see, I think I was a pretty quiet kid. So I was in the library and in the art room a lot growing up. So yeah.
Very nice.
A party animal, that phase came later. Then I got quiet again.
What about, did he ever get the chance to do one of those human pyramids? You're not into all the human pyramid stuff.
No human pyramids. Unless you count team building exercises. But yeah.
Would he ever be interested in doing one, or it's not your forte?
Sure, I'd be up for it. I don't mind climbing up over people and being part of a organized structure.
I love that. I love that stuff. I'm a loser.
No?
I've never done one, but I do plan on doing one at one point.
First time, so yeah.
Well, with that being said, I do have, while on the subject, I haven't done this in a while, but I have 3 top questions I want to ask you while on the subject, because like I said, I am a loser and I love that type of thing. The first one I want to ask you is, would you do a side-by-side or would you do a stack?
Oh, I like the stacks. Yeah, the stacks sound like fun.
Now, how many people? What do you like? The small one would be like 3, 6, 10. What would be your limit? And where would you want to be? Bottom, middle, or top?
Well, since I'm fairly petite, and I like to climb things, I think I'd like to at least be a couple of levels up. And I think a good maybe, at least five people or more. That way you can get multi-levels.
No, absolutely. Now, you mean 5 people beneath or 5 people just in general?
Oh, 5 people in general. So you at least have a minimum of 3 on the bottom, 2, and then 1 on top. But that would be the minimum because, you need that challenge of climbing and balancing. That's what makes it fun.
No, absolutely. It's funny you should mention about the climbing and balancing. That's my last question for you. Would you just do, like, say, for an example, someone gets on their hands and knees, or would you want to actually a challenge and use like an exercise ball for a base?
Oh my gosh.
I would
I
go with the
not
ball.
there. Yeah, not there yet with the exercise ball. I think hands and knees on everybody. And yeah, let's start with that. That's
well,
a really good first question.
well,
It's got me thinking and visualizing.
but to be honest, if well, for people out there who have not seen Dumbo, they know like in the beginning of the movie, it's like the whole stack. So that's what I want to do.
Oh my gosh, the stacks would be, I think, much more difficult for sure. So you're ambitious. Oh
Well, I'm a loser. I've been thinking about that type of thing since I was 4.
no, we have these games that we play sometimes, and even in team building, where you kind of you do these things. So yeah, it's it's definitely though the stack, the elephant stack, I can see that as being much more difficult. Now with an exercise ball, I'll leave that to you.
Well, we don't have to even use the ball. Let's use the stack in general.
Yeah, tough one.
Now, the next question I was going to ask you, you mentioned that you were a swimmer. Did you ever want to be a professional swimmer? And what got you interested in swimming?
Well, I think I love the water, so that's a given. I love being in the water, and I did that. I never thought about being a professional swimmer. It was more for just, exercising and being a part of something and learning all the different strokes. But I have to admit that I started swimming, and then once I got into high school, it was a choice of either after school work or theater, and that's when I started going the arts route.
No, absolutely. And it's funny because that's the next question I was going to ask you. What got you into the arts? Because you're beautiful, by the way. And I know I'm a bad fart. But you're beautiful, by the way, and you are a professional actress. So the first question I'm going to ask you is how many years have you been acting, and who influenced you to become a professional actor?
Wow. Okay. So growing up, I think, there's always been theater in school or things like that. And I've done that for fun and really enjoyed just the community theater and that aspect of it. What inspired me? I grew up on a lot of BBC shows and a lot of British television and British films. And so I think, for one, the artistry of it, I was inspired by, the trained actors from, the great theater tradition and the ones that have kind of crossed over, like Helen Mirren and Ian McKellen. But for me personally, it was really just kind of wanting to participate in stories that I wasn't seeing Asian people represented. So I think there was also an aspect of me that was like, hey, I want to do that, and why can't we see someone like, yeah, someone different colors.
No, I agree
So,
with you 100%. And it's funny to mention that because in my mind, I have a lot of things in my mind. A lot of people say I have too much free time on my mind. Thanks. Anyway, I sometimes put my foot in my mouth.
no,
um,
the playground. Yeah, go ahead.
so the next question I was going to ask you is, I'm a big fan of Annie. I grew up watching Annie, and I said, why can't I got so excited when it's like, oh, they're making a black Annie. And I'm like, oh, cool, the same exact story, the same exact everything. Nope, they just ran that into the ground. And I was watching it, and I think Annie's kind of racist because there's no black people in Annie, or Asian people. It's all white. So when I heard of the opportunity of them actually making an actual African American Annie movie, I
Mm-hmm.
think that has potential, and especially for the Asian community, they should have their own Annie movie. I would love to see that.
Absolutely. I think that it's really important to see someone that looks like you on screen. So I know that for a lot of people, like you have the Wizard of Oz, and then when they did the Wiz, that was a big hit.
Right.
If you're so things like that are really important, and yeah, there's something to be said about having your existence validated in a way because we're so visual, and what we see from media is how we feel the world is sometimes. And when you don't see someone that looks like you or struggles with the same things as you or your story kind of thing, it kind of, it makes you question what your place is in all of it.
No, I agree with you 100%. What is, trying to find something good that we mentioned last time. Oh, you mentioned when you came over from um,
Taiwan?
Taiwan, thank you. I just had a brain fart, like I always do. So you mentioned when you came from...
Conversation?
I know, I am hard on myself. But that's a subject for another time. But you mentioned from when you make the transition from Taiwan, what is the difference between the two countries, number one, culture-wise, and how hard was it to make the transition over?
Well, I was about 7, so I think in a way I was lucky that as a child, it's easier to pick up a new language. But there was some struggle there. I think, popping into a brand new environment. I remember landing, and our first place was in Northern California in this community called Palo Alto, which at the time was just blonde, blue-eyed. And I felt like I was in another world. And then also not being able to speak the language. I don't remember how I got through the first few years. But the great thing with kids is that I remember having friends. Like, I remember playing with people. And it didn't, so not knowing English yet wasn't an issue. I think the biggest challenges have been kind of culturally what the expectations are, coming to the States and having my family and their expectations, and then being in the U.S. The biggest difference I have noticed is that there's just more freedom, there's more opportunity in the sense of, be yourself, be who you are, do your own thing. You're encouraged to kind of find your path in some ways. At least that's how I felt observing kind of the difference and going back and forth between the cultures. Whereas Asian culture, for sure, and a lot of other ethnic cultures too, was very much like, this is what you're supposed to do and only do this. And these other things are not options, or yeah, that's for fun, but you can't, you got to be a doctor, a lawyer. Probably have heard all this. I have to say though, I think the Taiwanese culture has come a long way, and you'll see it in the news a lot that it's much more open-minded now. So that's great. But growing up, the challenge was just kind of how to navigate like my identity. And so maybe for me, the arts was my path to exploring kind of freedom of expression.
No, I agree with you. Now, I'm going to ask you a personal question, if I may. My niece, she's also Asian descent. Do you think that keeping the family culture and the traditions, do you think that of course, it's important, but do you think to this generation, I give you an example of what I'm talking about. My grandparents, not my grandparents, but their parents were Orthodox descent. And my grandfather served in World War II, and yes, he was Jewish, my grandmother was Jewish, and my parents are Jewish. But along the lines, it seemed to be, when you get to us, of our kids, it kind of breaks down a little bit, where the transition and the whole religion thing is not important. To me, I believe in God. I believe in God and the devil. And for my show, especially, I don't like labels, tend to break labels.
Right.
But what I'm trying to say, without butchering it, is do you think it's important to keep to keep saying transition, the tradition alive, or do you think at the same time it's going to be what it's going to be?
I think there's always forward movement. So tradition has its place, for sure. Absolutely. I think it's important to examine, older traditions and the thinking that comes with it. And as we move forward, see what still works, see what's healthy, see how, and so there's importance to it. But sometimes I feel like what happens when people come from a different culture or whatever, you get stuck in doing things and you just do them and you don't know why you're doing them anymore. And so it needs to continue to be meaningful or find ways to make that tradition relevant to, what's happening now. Did that answer your question?
No, absolutely. I give you an example. I'm not Asian, but okay, I just had a real pause in there. I can always edit that out. But I'm just saying I'm not Asian, but I do copy what I see. For an example, my former sister-in-law she used to say, "No sneakers in the house." I'm the only person in my family that walks around the house without any sneakers on.
So I love that. To me, that makes sense because, for one, it's just practicality reasons. It's easier to keep things clean when you're not tracking stuff all over the house. So, and that is funny that you mentioned that because I do think it's like an Asian household. It's very much a given. You walk in, there's a pile of shoes outside the door, a pile of shoes inside. And at my parents' house, my dad actually even put down, on a sign like, "Please take shoes off." And for the longest time, I think growing up, I'd be a little embarrassed about those differences, because you're just like, but now, like, I get it. I think it keeps the place neater, cleaner, and yeah. Also, when you're home, like being barefoot, there's a connection. There's more of a cozy feeling. So
my dad makes fun. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. Please go ahead. Your dad is making fun.
My dad makes fun of me sometimes because when he comes back from ShopRite, I would go, if it's a nice day out, I will walk outside without any sneakers on, and he would say, "Oh, where's your sneakers?" But I don't care. I run out, get the stuff, I run back. If I have to change my socks, big whoop, but I don't know, it doesn't really bother me. As long as it's not raining or muddy outside, it doesn't really matter.
And there's a lot of data and science now about just being barefoot out in nature, or just, that sense of grounding, that when we have our bare feet touching the ground and feet on grass or something like that, it's actually very healthy for us. So you can just tell your dad that.
It's funny to mention it. I don't know if you remember this, but there used to be a sneaker. It was kind of like a sock, but then it turned into a sneaker. But you know what I'm talking about. It's like you put it on your foot.
Yeah.
So I always wanted one of those.
Well, they were really popular for a while, and everyone had, basically they look like toe socks.
Yeah.
And then those people, I think, for jogging too, there were some jogging shoes. I think it's called Barefoot. I'm not quite sure, but there's still tons of brands that still make that. You should get yourself a pair.
One of my things to do list. Now, one thing I do want to promote is going back to the Green Book. I haven't done this book. This book goes back to, here, I'll give you a little sample of 2014. So that shows you how many years ago these questions go back. And I want to ask you, because we're having fun with this, let's see, what's something good? Okay, if you could have a drink with anyone, who would it be and why?
Oh my gosh. That is a tough one. There's just so many people. I think for me, I am really, I don't want to get political, so I'll leave that alone.
No, freedom of speech. You can say whatever you want.
I really would love to have a conversation with, here it comes, Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. Just sit down with them. But I think we see and hear enough of their stories and all that. But mostly just, I don't even know if they drink. I'm sure they do have a sip of wine. But just to kind of, sit with someone and go, thank you for your ideas. and thank you for, wanting this to work for all of us somehow.
No, I agree with you 100%. And throw myself underneath the bus with you. The truth of the matter is that Bernie Sanders was screwed over in the primary. No one wants Hillary Clinton. First off, Hillary Clinton looks like the Joker, number one. And they just, said, okay, we're going to have Bernie Sanders here. And then, oh, no, okay. And then they made the joke, 2020, hindsight, 2020, that Bernie Sanders was going to run. And, I mean, I like Bernie Sanders, but there's certain things that he's kind of a wuss over. I'll give you an example.
Okay.
When he did one of his conferences, and this is when Black Lives Matter, how they stormed the stage and they got up in his face, it's like, what do you got to do about it? He stood his ground, saying, this is my time, you have your time, this is mine, this is not the time or place. That's all he had to say. Instead, he got up and he walked away, and because he got up and walked away, people thought he was awake.
Right. And I think it's so dangerous to judge and stuff like that in that heat of the moment. And I think we're all human, and yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I kind of look at the track record and the history and who's been saying what for the longest time. But yeah, there's definitely moments, and people are human, human. So yeah, could have handled it better in other people's minds, but also didn't engage in the whole thing. So I think that's what's important, is that you kind of pick and choose what to engage in. And yeah, I'm sorry if I opened up a big can of worms by bringing all this stuff in, but yeah. So.
I want to get you fired up. I want to make you happy. So whatever you want to talk about, this is your time. And it's funny because the next question I was going to ask you, speaking about getting you fired up, what type of music helps you relax and gets you pumped up?
Oh my gosh. I have a pretty eclectic range of music, and I will admit that I used to listen to a lot of heavy metal. And so as far as getting fired up, yeah. So a lot of that stuff still pumps me up. Like, I'm a big Iron Maiden fan.
Likewise.
Hey, I love this. I love how the universe does this. Yeah, because there aren't that many metal fans in my life anymore. So it's great to meet another person who's into this and knows who I'm referencing. Motorhead.
Yep.
I love Motorhead. And so that, as far as getting fired up, and I've been, adapting and changing, and new music. I'm a big fan of the Flaming Lips, if you've heard of them. Kind of trippy, poppy, but I just kind of like the aesthetics they bring into things, especially their music videos and stuff. As far as relaxing, I can go all the way into, classical music, and sometimes I'll have that on the radio. It just depends on what my mood is, if I need to relax. Jazz. I have friends that make fun of me when they get in my car because it's like, you're listening to opera or something. But it's just whatever moves me at that moment, and also that if that, the artists themselves, like the energy that they bring. So, yeah.
No, absolutely. Now, before we take our commercial break, real fast, the ones I like, is Iron Maiden, Halloween, Rush.
What? You know Halloween?
Yep.
Oh my God, that is amazing. That is amazing.
Also,
I need another Halloween fan. What is your favorite? Yeah, which one? What is your favorite Halloween album?
That is a good question. I have a lot of favorite songs. I Want Out, I Wish I Could Fly, The Perfect Gentleman, Ego. I have a list. I can just show you afterwards.
That is so super cool. It is so cool to meet another Halloween fan. I think I love Keeper of the Seven Keys.
Yes.
That, to me, is an epic journey that you go on. And I think that's what people don't realize about metal, is that some of these bands, they're telling these tales, and they are big and full of, struggle and triumph and, like, encouragement. And then you got the guitars in there. I mean, it's just everything. Anyway, sorry. You got me fired up. Look at that.
I also have Rush. Rush was my first band I ever listened to. I know Led Zeppelin. I don't know if you ever heard of Nightwish.
I have heard of Nightwish. It's a female singer, right?
Yes, she's really good.
Yeah, it's one of the few metal bands that's got a female lead, which is, that's cool. Representation matters. So.
No, absolutely. And there's a couple other ones, but we can save it on that. But we're going to take it. When we come back from the commercial break, I'm going to ask you about two hard-hitting subjects about disabilities and social media when we come back.
Hi, I'm Marissa Joy Davis.
This is Michelle Wong.
And I'm Nancy Rose.
My name is Brandy Hunt. And
hello, my name is Raven Wynn.
Hi there. My name is Giovanna Vidal.
Hi, I'm Monica Thomas.
Hi, I'm Paisley Blackburn.
I'm Ashley Burgess.
Hi, my name is Jeanette Abney.
Hi, I'm Sharon Spank.
Hey, this is Samantha Moore.
Hi, I'm Melody Jones.
Hi, my name is Becky Yee.
Hi, you're watching the Keith Andrew Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am your host, Keith Andrew, and you're watching the Keith Andrew Network. I'm here as the talented and beautiful Vicky Lee, and I just want to say thank you for sticking with us.
Thank you. It's an honor.
No, likewise. Hey, you're supporting a good cause and making a new friend out of it. That's what the Keith Andrew Network's about. Making a statement plus making a new friend. So it's a win-win. It's like a yin-yang. I consider myself a yin-yang because I do something good, I do something stupid, so I kind of balance myself out.
I think that's great. I think that we need more win-win situations in this world, for sure. So, yeah.
Absolutely. Now, with the last 7 minutes, I'm going to pass the show over to you. But the first two things I want to talk to you about real fast is social media. With everything you accomplish in your life, do you think Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, do you think all that dictates if people should work with you? And have you ever worked with people with disability? Apparently you're working with me. Are you willing to work with people with disabilities, or have you worked with people with disabilities?
So there's several parts to that question. I'll answer the disability part first. I think as long as people can show up and do what it is, their part in it, the disability doesn't come into it at all. And also there's this thing where there are a lot of people with invisible disabilities. And so I'm sure that, that's, I'm sure that I've come across other, performers that have things that they're dealing with. So for sure, and I think that, yeah, for sure that this disability thing comes up a lot now, and I'm glad that there's more awareness of it. We also need representation of people with visible ones, but we also need people who with invisible disabilities to talk about it, just to show that, yeah, anyone can do anything. Don't be limited by your label or your diagnosis or whatever it is. So the second part, or actually the first part of your question, the social media, I have to admit that doing what I do, the social media aspect is a relatively new thing that I'm aware of that I need to be doing. I got into acting and theater for, I guess, the art of it, and the selling yourself part. I think that's something I'm still learning. How are we presenting ourselves up on social media? Is it as necessary as everyone says? Do I need to be posting how many times a day? Do I really want to post that, that many times a day? Like, what do I really want to say? So, but I am grateful for social media and that, in the sense that there's a sense of being able to see what other people are doing that's very inspiring. And there's also just the personal aspects of being able to keep in touch with their friends around the world or see what they're up to. So, or even actors and directors that you've worked with in the past and kind of like, oh, what are they up to now? And it's great to have seen them go from, one project to another and just kind of follow that. So.
No, absolutely. I always said in the beginning, how what it gets me is the stupidest things always become something big. Look at Ryan's World, or look at the whole JoJo thing. But okay, JoJo, you have Nickelodeon behind it, so you have a big corporation. But you have a 6-year-old picking his nose and talking about toys. Like, I can do. I'm not going to pick my nose, but I can talk about toys and whatever. But then you have other things where people are like, it's like the message about showing people with disabilities, look at what you're able to accomplish. It's like, that's great, but if you don't have a solid following, then we can't get behind that. And then it becomes about numbers. It's like, right. Yeah, if we give you a chance, what is the guarantee? You're going to be a hit or you're going to be a flop. So it antagonizes me. It's like, I have a great message, but I'm not a following. So it's really tough.
I love what you're doing, and I love that you have, you had a vision for it, and you went with it, and here's your platform, and I think that that's really important. And yes, the business aspect of it, I mean, I've even, there are agencies, a lot of talent agencies now have a social media influencer, category now where they're looking, and I mean, it's not my thing. It's not, that's all I have to say about it, that it is relevant in the business of entertainment, and at the same time, there is the art and the craft of things, and then there's the business. So, just kind of, you got to choose, and I guess you got to know who you are and what you want to say. Otherwise, you're just kind of posting pictures, and it looks great, but I don't know what you're standing for.
No, I agree with you. Now, with that being said, I'm going to pass it over to you. It's the last 2 minutes counted. Was there anything you wanted to know, anything you wanted to talk about? This is your time.
Oh, gosh. I'm just very grateful to have this, opportunity. And like you said, just, your platform about disabilities and learning disabilities and not letting things define you, like break the labels. And so I actually have this one little thing, and I don't know if you can see it, but I have this up on my wall, and I love it. I'm going to try to see if you can see. Can you see the thing with 2 sloths?
Yep.
Okay, and they're jogging. Well, one is jogging. So you've got one that's jogging and one that's on the ground. And then the caption says, "Don't believe in labels." So it's the sloth that's, that's running and jogging and, doing the active thing. And he's just telling the other guy, like, hey, like, just because they call you a sloth, doesn't mean that. Anyways, but without going too deep into it, I try to remember those things, and that, again, I think with my own background and all that stuff, just not letting what people have told you about who you are define you. You get to decide.
No, absolutely. Now, wrapping up the show, I do have a couple questions for you off the air. The first question I was going to ask you is, how can people follow you? Are you on Twitter, LinkedIn, Stage 32? Are you on any of those?
Oh, I'm not on Twitter. That's one thing I haven't learned to do. I'm fairly new on Instagram, as in, like, I don't post all the time. So, again, trying to figure out what that means. And so on there, you can find me under Vicky Lee Film TV, because it rhymes, right? And I don't know, I have bigger plans, I guess, at some point for Vicky Lee Film TV. I am on LinkedIn, but, with a name like that, you're going to have a lot of, there's going to be a lot of Vicky Lees that you'll find. I'm the one in LA. And on Facebook, I'm under Vicky Lee Actress. So.
Well, I will definitely add you on all those. And my last question for you is, when I first approached you to be a guest on my talk show, what was your first honest opinion when you read it? What made you say yes? And after being a guest, how do you feel now, and would you recommend it?
I would absolutely recommend it. But when I first got it, because you reached out to me through LinkedIn, which I really appreciate that you did. And, you know, everyone's a little bit leery in this world, but I definitely looked at that and thought, well, what an interesting time, because you reached out at a time when I started to really dig into, like, why am I doing this? You know, what do I have to say? Like, is this, yeah, so I did a little research and then said, oh, okay, well, it's a legitimate person, a real person, a legitimate. And then when I saw what your platform was, I definitely wanted to, be a part of the content that you produce and support and amplify, what you're doing. And so definitely from there, I mean, I know, people don't, but you and I have been trying to coordinate something for a while between my travel schedule and your busy shooting schedule. So it was definitely important enough for me to continue to engage, and you as well, reaching out. And so I appreciate that we are finally able to do this today. And yes, highly recommend it. You have some really interesting, like a really interesting variety of, professions on your show. So that's also very cool.
No, absolutely. I like giving people a chance. But with that being said, I do have a couple questions for you off the air. But it was a real honor and privilege having you as a guest, and I'm looking forward to part 2 down the road.
Thanks, Keith. I really appreciate it. All the best. Keep doing this. And yes.